Hey, welcome everyone, and welcome to the BYA Everyday podcast. And today we've got a very special show for you. Our guest today is Dr. Brisa Dixon, and Dr. Dixon is the owner and the CEO of SeaBreeze NEMT, based out of Rockford, Illinois. I had a great opportunity and good fortune of meeting Dr. Dixon. She was on the Transportation Provider Advisory Council at my last firm, and she always stood out as just someone who was very caring about the business and caring about, success and helping people be successful and really serving her community and her members. And it was just a pleasure working with her then, and it's a pleasure not only to work with her now, but even to have a friendship that I'm sure is going to last a lifetime. And I'm just really proud of her and the work that she and her husband have put into this business to grow it and scale it in Rockford, Illinois. And I know you're going to get a lot of value out of her entrepreneurial journey. And so, Brisa, welcome.
Well, thank you. Phil, thank you so much for having me here. It is definitely always a joy to see you, to hear from you. You're always also a wealth of knowledge. And I am very, very grateful for, having this opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's great. And you just, you've done it right. And I had the good fortune of going out to your facility and your business on a couple of occasions. And every time I walked away, I was like, wow, she's doing a good job. She's like ingrained in that community.
Absolutely.
And I just love what I saw there. And I thought you just, you had a really good business model. And I was just proud of the work that you and the team have put in there.
Yeah, the business ethic model, being, the youngest of 11 kids. And, my parents actually owned the first Mexican grocery store in Rockford, Illinois. And, growing up seeing that and seeing how important it was, for my dad to be community driven and always solution focused, and I was always raised, there isn't anything you can't do, you know, and if you understand who moves your mountains and who opens your doors, the sky's the limit, right? Like just take it, do it. So when I started the business, I'm not going to, being completely honest and transparent, it wasn't easy,
Yeah.
but here we are today. And, as long as you are, as I mentioned, solution focused and, dedicated and invested, there isn't anything you can't do, Phil.
Right. Right.
It really isn't, because I started the business with a lot of individuals saying no. A lot
Sure.
of individuals saying no, saying, "Oh no, this is too risky, absolutely not." And I took a leap of faith, and we started in the basement of my house.
Hmm.
I actually typed up a resignation letter for my husband, and I handed him a paper, and I'm like, "Look, give this to your employer." He had an amazing job with great benefits, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "Look, we got to do this. The community needs it." There was a desperate need for transportation, especially with wheelchair and stretcher transport. One of my specialties is in traumatic brain injuries. And, I would say 86% of the patients that have that diagnosis are either in wheelchairs or, bedridden, and transportation is difficult. And if it's not an emergency, there's no reason why, the fire department or an emergency service team should be transporting them to a urologist, right?
Right.
So, and then also too, what that's going to cost, the community, the insurance company, all of that stuff, so if you want to just go to a routine medical appointment and you need specialized transportation, that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then SeaBreeze, yes, we live in the Midwest. I named my company SeaBreeze because my first name Brisa means sea breeze in Spanish, and I felt that it was cool, and it had something to stick with, and that's why we're here today. We're a small company, but yet we do big and amazing things. We do over 350 trips a day. I have 40 employees, and I'm really proud of the things that we have accomplished. I really, really am. And,
Yeah.
when I told you, Phil, community driven, I mean, to the 10th power, community driven.
Well, Rockford's home, though, right?
Rockford is home. I was
Right.
born and raised in Rockford. I'm a Latina. My family's from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. So that's where they originally are from. But yeah, I was born and raised in Rockford, on the south side of Rockford. which was predominantly an Italian and Latin community. And yeah, here I am today.
So one of 11 kids.
Yes, that's true.
Wow, I didn't know that about you. I mean, to be honest, I don't know we've ever gotten there, as far as
Yeah.
like the family situation. So one of 11 kids, which is great. And did you say you were the youngest or the oldest?
Yes. Youngest.
Youngest. So the youngest of 11.
Yes.
And really setting it off, which is fantastic and just
Absolutely.
yeah, just very, very proud of you. So
Yeah.
today you have 40 kids. Now, how long, I mean, 40
Oh
employees,
no. Yes.
but how long have you been in business?
It'll be 6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
I mean, that's incredible, Brisa.
Yeah.
So you've grown in scale. I mean, you started out with how many vehicles?
One vehicle.
One vehicle.
I started out with one vehicle and one driver. And I had to purchase, with my own cash, with my own capital, obviously my first vehicle. And my husband was my first driver.
So your husband was your first driver. So once again, you are the boss at work and at home, and
Well,
own
listen,
it.
I mean, that's one thing, I've been married for 27 years, and I have to tell you, this November 11th was 27 years. And as long as he's always understood his role, that's the key to our
Right.
success.
Right. No, and that's important too. And we might be able to, spend some time and talk about, the roles and the functions. And Delvin he's a great partner. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's very involved in the daily
Very much
operations of the
so.
business.
He's definitely
And
the muscle of my operation. Yeah.
yeah, no, he takes care of business out there, and you could tell and you could see it
Yeah.
in just the way he interacts with the drivers and everything.
Yes.
You guys make a great team. So you started with one vehicle out of the basement of your home,
Yes.
and today you have 40 employees.
And 25
And I know you
units.
have like a back office staff and those kinds of things. But then how many
Yes.
vehicles do you have today?
25.
25. So 25
Yeah.
vehicles. I mean, it's an inspiring story. It
Yeah.
really is. It's just a
Yeah, it
great
is.
testament to your work.
It is definitely. Like I said, I'm really proud of what we have accomplished. I'm gonna say, it wasn't easy giving up working 40 hours for somebody to work 80 for myself. Being realistic, when you are the owner of a company, you're gonna be putting in those hours. You're gonna have to, fill in those gaps at times. But as long as you build up a strong foundation as a business owner, then you have that ability to disconnect. If you hire individuals that are capable of doing the job that they're doing, then you're just a backup for them, right?
Yeah.
And that is one thing that I have definitely instilled in all of my employees, is to empower them, to teach them good business practice as a whole. But not only that, Phil, like we go above and beyond. It's kind of, because we're small, very family oriented, and understanding that with growth, things happen with growth. And being able to incorporate that with my business practice with my employees, and understanding what their growth level is and meeting them at that level as well is very, very important. Like, I was really proud, Phil, this year, and I do want to speak on that. I have 3 employees that purchased homes this year.
That's
And that
awesome.
brings joy to my heart.
Yep.
Whenever we do our 6 month, our yearly, and we talk about those goals, and I had, a dad that sat here and said, I was raised by a single mother. We grew up in an apartment, all our lives. Now I'm married and I have 2 little ones. I have a 3-month-old and I have a 2-year-old. And I do not want that to happen with them. I want them to grow up in a place that they can call home.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, well, I can't do this. And I said, well, that's where that mentality has to change. You can't come in here and say what you can't do.
Yeah.
So, little by little, we worked on different things. We worked on incorporating what we could do, what community resources were out there. On Saturday, they're having this housing class. It's an 8-hour class, but do it. So pushing them and instilling those things. And here we are today. Like I said, I'm so happy. They've closed on their homes. There's programs in the community that also help with matching their down payment.
Absolutely.
And one of the programs that they have, they give up to $10,000 for a down payment. So if they were
Right.
able to save 10,000, now they're giving $20,000 for a down payment. And in Rockford, Illinois, you could purchase a home for $75,000.
Right.
I mean, it's from one extreme to another. So, and then they come back to me and they're like, my mortgage payment is cheaper than what I was paying for rent. And then I encourage them and I say, you know what, you continue to make that payment. Continue to make that payment like if you were doing your rent, because then that way you can get ahead, a couple of payments. So I'm always educating, I'm always teaching, but I think that is what makes us so amazing, because when you have employees who are happy, who are thriving, who are doing what they're supposed to be doing, then the business flows also, in a positive direction. And I incorporate that even with the individuals that we transport.
Yeah.
For the last couple of days, I've been building up letters and talking to community officials about some of the barriers that the individuals we transport.
Right. No, I think you build up a lot of equity, and people know, and employees can feel, when their owners have great empathy. I know I gave a presentation one time, leading with empathy, and it was all about kind of talking to just what you're talking about, business owners and CEOs having an understanding of some of the challenges that the employees face on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely.
And in many ways, you're doing exactly, some of the things that we talked about in that presentation, and that workshop was, for you to have connections to the community, right? Which I know you do. And you're able to connect those employees to those community resources that can help them improve their lives. With the labor situation where we are today, the unemployment rate may be at an acceptable level, but it may get pretty tight in the future. And I think as if it does in fact tighten, CEOs, business owners are going to have to implement some of those things that you're talking about in order to retain their top talent. But the positive thing too is when you really demonstrate to people that you care and that you're present, that goes all throughout the community. And that's just a powerful testament to the work that you're doing. And it's great. I'm interested, Brisa, real quick, like the tenure of your employees, your drivers and stuff like that. How long have some of these folks been with you?
I have quite a few that have been with me since day one.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. They came in and I have to tell you, the fact that they came in, and when I interviewed them at my kitchen table, because I told you we started the business in my home, right? And took a leap of faith. And I almost felt I felt like a car's used salesman. It's like, let me sell you this picture because it's right here, it's embedded.
Right.
And I see the vision, and then just walk with me, and let's do this, like believe in me. And I promise I'm going to be good to you. One thing I am is I'm a woman of my word, let's do it. And yeah, I sure have. I have definitely, I'm really happy, about that. And then also too, I want to tell you that out of the 40 employees, 38 of them are single parents, just to let you know, are single parents. So being able to work around their schedules and being able to adapt and, make all of that has been golden, to be honest with you. It really has. And then also too, I recognize that we have, different individuals in this world. It's like we have our leaf people that, when the season changes, them leaves is going to fall off. We have our branch people that are a little bit stronger. And then when the, things get a little tough, they'll break off and then move on. And then we have our rooted individuals, but I let them know off top, that is the type of person that I am. I'm definitely a rooted individual. And if there is a goal that you want to accomplish, let's do it.
Yeah.
I have two moms that graduated from nursing school. And it was a bittersweet, because it's like, you're a good employee. I love you, but also I know that it's a new chapter for you.
To grow.
It's a new chapter for you. And now, I was able to work around your school schedule and so on. And now you're getting ready to, they just passed their boards and did all, their next steps and, and the season's up. So, but they've been with me for 4 years.
Wow. That is so cool, and when they come back, you feel just feel proud. I had an intern when I was in Kentucky,
Uh-huh.
and Megan was just so impressive. She was straight A student, presidential award winner, and she just reached out to me recently on Instagram and said, "Where are you in this area in Atlanta?" And I said, "Hey, we live in Woodstock." And she's like, "Oh my God, I'm right in Roswell." Well, when she was in college, we had talked about, maybe she could work for us in the back office or something like that. And I was like, you know what, Megan? No. Uh-uh.
Yeah.
You're destined for much better and greater things. And she ended up, taking an opportunity with an accounting firm, and now she's like the head of production for this multimedia company, and that has like 1 million followers, and she's doing this stuff and blows up and goes out to California. But she just reached out, and I'm so proud, of the
Yeah.
work that she's done. And so sometimes, to your point, you hate to see them leave, but man, you're so proud of the growth that
Right.
they've gone through, and that's just a great testament that you were there to support them, and that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Absolutely. And that brings
Yeah.
joy to my heart. And I feel that always when you put that good positive energy, when you give that back, it's like nothing but good things is going to come back to you,
Yep. Yep. No, for sure. And I think the other thing is, it sounds like, and I know you do, you take very seriously, obviously, the people that work for you, but it's not just the people that work for you that are reliant upon you to be successful. It's those kids, like you mentioned, 38 of them, or a number of them are single parents, right? And
Mhm.
so all of those folks that are in their family
Mhm.
rely on you every day to make great business decisions,
Yeah.
to run the business in a very, clean and ethical way.
Yeah.
And so you're not only serving the community, but you are providing economic opportunity. And I
That's
think
right.
that's where a lot of people, especially in healthcare, where they lose a little bit of sight of that, where it's like, hey, yes, you're providing access to care, which is wonderful, but you're also providing economic stability for a large subset of the community.
That's right.
And that is so important. And then not only that, when you're getting your vehicles repaired, the cars washed or whatever, you're supporting the small businesses around you, so
Oh,
there's a
yes.
lot of folks that are benefiting from SeaBreeze NEMT in the city
Yes.
of Rockford, Illinois.
That is correct. That is correct. It's a big number to fill every month, I got to tell you. Yes.
You know what? If you couldn't handle it, you wouldn't be in that situation,
It
right? Like
is. It is definitely.
we only put you in situations that you can handle, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not only like, so if we're big and amazing, here in-house, we're also big and amazing out, with our community resources, with the things that we did. We just did Stroll on State, which was amazing. It's a parade that my community has. So we are very much embedded and incorporated in all of those events. And I was actually on the parade. I was the Christmas tree, so I was out
Awesome.
there like, hey, SeaBreeze, thank you for your support. We love you. And then this little boy, we were giving out SeaBreeze sweatshirts and so on. And he was like, hey, that's my granny's bus. It was just
Okay.
so cute, to
Yeah.
hear, how the reactions and so on. So, I love it. I love it. But when I tell you, not just with my employees, but with the members that we transport as well, you know, um, I train my drivers to the 10th power, and I'm like, you're not just their driver. Sometimes you're their counselor. Sometimes you're their prayer warrior. You have so many different hats, right? So
Right.
teaching them about all of that stuff, is really important. And then also with our members, this, like I said, the all week actually, I've been, contacting, some of the providers that we do business with, and how it's important to kind of educate about, some of those end of the year letters that we have to fill out so that our benefits don't lapse, so that these things don't happen, because some of the individuals we transport, we are a strong foundation for them.
Right.
Dialysis is important, chemotherapy, infusion, all of that is very important. All the medical, is important. And if you don't have transportation, and you can't get there, that's really impactful.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
No,
one
for
in
sure.
six individuals do not have a vehicle. One
Yeah.
in six.
Yeah.
we don't realize that, but it definitely impacts. 24 visits a day for each doctor is canceled because of transportation. They can't get to that appointment.
Yeah, that to me, that's just, that's an insane number. And I think
It's
part of
real.
the,
It's
oh
real.
no, it's a huge deal, and it obviously impacts that physician, and it also impacts your business as well. And we were talking a little bit about, some of those letters that you're writing out during this time frame.
Yeah.
And I never really even thought about it. Like, open enrollment period is
Yes.
kind of a tough time frame that impacts your business. And some of the work that you're doing to educate people, some of your providers, in regards to
Reaching out to
educating
the
the
social
member on,
workers. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, Brisa. Like, to me, that's one of your systems, right? That
Yes.
you have
Yes.
in place to ensure that your business thrives. And I never even thought about, how it could impact, the
Yeah.
holiday season, for example,
Yeah.
how this time impacts your business because of the call offs or whatever else. And then you have weather on top of that
Yeah.
in January, February. I mean,
Yeah.
that's tough 3 or 4
The
month
next,
stretch to
yeah.
manage.
So I would say, 4 months are always very difficult for the transportation company in the Midwest for us. And I'm speaking for SeaBreeze.
Yeah.
Obviously the month of November and December, because of the holidays, the short months, the doctors are closed and so on. The Christmas, the Thanksgiving, the New Year's. So that's an issue. Or maybe they're, spending time with family and maybe going out of town or going to Chicago with their sister, and they're not following through with their treatment. So they kind of fall off a little bit. So that impacts my company because then I'm not transporting, right? But then also weather is a huge factor, a huge issue. If you're, our primary form of transport is wheelchairs. So if a person's driveway has, 12 inches of snow or whatever, it's not like you can just wheel their chair, down their driveway comfortably, or their power chair. So that is really impactful, and they can't go out and shovel the snow. So oftentimes they will cancel. Now I got to be honest, with some of our high risk, patients or members that we transport, Delvin will go out in his pickup truck and he has a plow, and he'll just take that snow out. We take those extra steps. And then also too, I don't want my vehicles getting stuck,
Right.
because then I have to, get a tow truck. And so we take those extra steps. We take those extra steps, but because we're also a small business, we want to make sure that we're here today and we're going to be here tomorrow, right? And I don't have the luxury of saying, well, we're going to be closed this month because of this reason, right? I don't. We have to keep thriving. And if I have 40 employees, they're depending on me. So I always have to think out of the box. So for our members, like training my drivers that in these months when they're transporting them, don't forget to renew your benefits. You don't want to get your trips canceled. Talking to our social workers, letting them know, hey, don't forget to reinstate those standing orders. Don't forget, that's important. Last year, I had a person, who we have been transporting for many years now, who's blind and needs a lot of extra help and goes to dialysis. And because she's not able to see and so on, she was receiving letters, but obviously, if nobody's reading the letters for her to reinstate her benefits, she's gonna forget about that. I
Relax.
mean,
Right.
so they lapsed. So for a month, she didn't have insurance. So finally, the social worker was able to help with that process. So for a month, there was going to be a gap, right? So I know how important it is for her. She knows who my drivers are. My drivers know who she is. She trusts them. There's a different level right there. So we continue to transport her, and I just ate that cost.
Wow.
Uh, and as a small company, those little things add up because I
Yeah,
still have
they
to pay
do.
my driver, I still have to pay my gas, but I continue to transport this individual. And I'm going to tell you one thing, Phil, how God works. 3 weeks into her transport, we transported a private pay who was a retired doctor, and we didn't even know. We didn't even know, that he was a retired doctor. We transported him. He paid for his transport and so on. And then he wrote me a letter how happy he was with the transportation and with my driver and with the quality of my vehicles and so on. And in the letter, he submitted a $500 check.
Wow.
And he said, you can, thank you so much for your service. I paid for my service, but here's an additional $500 and you could utilize it for somebody who maybe needs transport this month. So
Mhm.
when I tell you, it's like, look at the way God works, right? So here I've been transporting this individual for free because I know how important it is, for dialysis and so on. And then things like that happen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's just an example, of, how amazing community can be and how God works. And I'm a
Yeah.
God-fearing woman, so I always,
Yeah.
make sure to understand where my foundation is embedded and comes from and where my strength comes from.
No, for sure. And you are very strong and definitely embedded. And I think a lot of companies though, especially small business owners, they sometimes don't understand the power of community engagement, right?
Very much so.
Um, and having been a small business owner, uh, sometimes it is hard. Like we were always hit for donations. I mean, it was just can you donate for this? Can you donate for that? And if they were going to come to somebody, they were going to come and ask our organization. And we literally got to a point where it's like, okay, we need to request in writing, and it needs to kind of hit on these
Yeah,
particular events. And sometimes folks just don't know like how like the drain that it causes on the small
absolutely.
business, but yet at the same time, the reward that it provides
Yeah.
on the other side is immeasurable.
Well, I have to tell you though too that being that happens to me as well. And I learned a very important word early on, and no. I mean, sometimes I have to say no.
Yeah.
And I have to be mindful of those things. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a very giving person. Like I want to, help the world and I want to give, 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 give. But then I also have to take a step back and say, listen, if I continue to do that,
I got to
this
make
is going
payroll
to
too.
impact, yeah, this is going to
Yeah.
definitely impact things.
Yeah.
So I have to be really mindful of those things. That's really important, as a small business owner. And one thing that I would really want to take out is it's really important for me to take it a point to learn something new every single day. So
Yeah.
I make it a practice, whether I'm driving from home to work, whether I'm sitting in front of my makeup mirror and I have my iPad right next to it, that I'm listening to a podcast, that I'm listening to something on YouTube. And maybe that day I'm listening to something inspirational. I don't know, maybe Denzel Washington is talking to me, and telling me how this, and maybe I needed to hear that, or maybe I'm listening to Joel Osteen, but I'm always listening to something to try to educate myself on something. And as a business owner, there's always changes. Every year there's changes as a business owner. Get familiar with those changes.
Right.
Be in that mix all the time. And that is one thing that I could strongly urge all business owners to do. How important that is. And then take that leap of faith. I am a woman who started a business. I went to school. I have my doctorate in clinical psych, and I went to school for that, and here I have a transportation company. Now, don't get me wrong, psychology isn't everything that we do, right? But here I am today as a small business owner, and take that leap of faith. Statistics show that in the Midwest, in I'm talking about Illinois, right? You know, only a certain percentage of women business-owned companies can generate over $1 million.
Yeah.
We've done that over the last 3 years
Yeah.
in only the small amount of time that we've been in business. But if you are able to market yourself, if you are able to go out there and be that front force, there's anything you can't do. You just have to do
Well,
it.
I think it's one thing to market, but I think it's a whole nother thing. You execute. I mean, you
Yeah,
definitely execute at a
yeah,
very high level. And I know when I was with the previous employer, you were an A+ provider, and so
yeah,
that meant you met the service times and all the
yeah,
requirements. And and so, it's not just about, oh, let's flash a picture and put it on Instagram.
No,
You
no.
got to get that person to and from that appointment on
Yeah,
time and on schedule. And you got to do that consistently day in and
right,
day out. And so
right.
that's why your business has been able to grow, and all of this other stuff in regards to marketing and being engaged in the community has just kind of been the wind at the back of the sails.
Absolutely.
But you've set the standard in regards to operational excellence early on.
And never put your eggs in one basket. Look, just share the
Right.
love, so oftentimes I have to say, oftentimes as a business owner, you start doing business with a company, and then you're like, oh, I love them and I only want to work with them.
Yeah.
I have to say, don't be naive to that. It's
Right.
really important. And that is, if you don't take anything else from this podcast session that you're having here, that your audience is having, is to be open minded. Okay.
Yes.
So don't just say, I'm only going to work with red company. No, be open and solution focused to contract. Is it tedious? Absolutely, because every
Yes.
company has their own practice.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if one loses a contract, another one loses a contract, you're already embedded and signed in with this other company. And that
Right.
is a key that I am sharing. You gotta have the ingredients to bake the cake, right?
Right.
So that is a key, to have that open. Don't burn your bridges with anybody. One might be your favorite, one might not be your favorite. But at the end of the day, it is a business.
No, and I think, couple things. I mean, if you are with one company, if you will, and you're providing rides to one organization or for one
Yeah.
organization, a broker,
Yes.
to your point, if they lose a contract, you are very, vulnerable. And I think even from a funding perspective, from a banking perspective, if someone looks at you and says, you know what, 90% of your volume is coming from XYZ company, you're at risk.
Yeah.
You're really at risk. And I'm aware of situations like that where, someone just went all in with just one company, and when that company lost the contract, they were scrambling, help us, find a spot. And so that's unfortunate, and that's very scary. So I think that's great advice. Put the systems in place, and then also diversify your assets and your trip volume,
Mhm.
so that you mitigate your risk there. And mitigating risk is so important. And
Right.
I want to talk about that because you are like the queen of mitigating risk too, like
Yes.
where you have drones and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cameras and
Let me tell you,
everything.
I have to protect my employee. I have to
Yeah.
protect my business. And I have to understand that as a business owner, there's so many different layers to it, right? So protection, as a whole is so important. So that's right. The vehicles it takes money, to do these things, but in the long run, it's a headache I don't have to worry about, right? Because if I have cameras in my car, if I have those drones that can GPS coordinate, they can tell me, how fast my car was going. I can turn my vehicles on. I can turn them off. I can lock and unlock I can put the heat up, put the heat down, like every morning, Delvin, we live half an hour away from the office. He turns on the vehicles from home. So, because we're in the Midwest, so that they can get warmed up, so that when that driver comes in, the vehicle is nice and warm, it's nice and toasty in there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is something that I don't take for granted. Let me tell you, I
Yeah.
love those things. And then also, if we're a minority owned company, and I have, a large percentage of my employees are minorities. So if I get a complaint, that says, well, your black driver was driving 100 down East State Street, and all I have to do is pull the video footage, the GPS coordinates, all that information, where it shows that in fact was not factual.
Right.
And this is real. I mean, this is something very real, and this is something that I take very serious, the safety. And then also too, you want to make sure that your insurance premiums don't go up high, because we're already paying thousands and thousands of dollars on insurance. I mean,
Yeah.
today, this afternoon, I have my appointment with my insurance broker where we talk over my renewal, and I have to come up with that 30% down, and I have to come up with those. So, so it's important that as long as you do those, you know, those little extra things, that helps. And those vehicles aren't cheap. They're $92,000 a vehicle.
Right. Right.
So, so, I have to be very mindful of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you guys do a great job, and it's really, you talked about, and I will now, I'll always remember this when you had just mentioned Delvin, in certain situations, going to clean a member's patient,
Driveway.
driveway. I mean, those, that's just huge, right? That's
Yeah.
huge. But then at the same time, it's protecting that member, it's protecting that patient. For those that
Yeah.
don't know, like
My car.
they call patients members, but it's also protecting your business too. Like, like
Yeah.
that person's still able to get to their appointment, and so it's smart. It's just really, really smart, the work that you've done.
And
Yeah.
that's why we get those requests. That's why we have a Christmas thing for the members that we transport. They can't get out of the community because we do the Christmas light show. And
Yeah.
my employees volunteer their time during Christmas, and they pick up all of their favorite members who don't get really out much, and we take them to the light show.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we bring them to the office and we give them a little Jimmy John's basket, whatever, with the sandwich, a Coke and some chips, whatever it might be. And we just, have some good time, spend some good time with them. And we do that. We've done that every year since day one, because Christmas is also my favorite holiday. I have drivers that dress up. My Rick, that's been with me for almost 6 years, he looks like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So he dresses up as Santa Claus, and he picks up individuals in the community dressed like that. Jackie always wants to be the Grinch. I have so they really get into it, right? But that is so cool. We have little kids calling the office. Is it true that Santa Claus is driving your car?
No, it's
My
funny.
mom said she saw, and it's so cute, So, um, but also too, Bill, I wanna let you know and your audience know too that as a business owner, I am always thinking about ways to grow and how to implement different opportunities, to my business. Like for example, when I first started, I just did ambulatory, and then we did wheelchair. We've added services, you know what I mean? So when it comes to growth and learning something new every day, and then we've added recently our stretcher services, so now I'm thinking, okay, what other service can SeaBreeze implement? Because I'm always thinking about how to evolve, how to change with the times. Like when I first started the business, we used to do everything by hand, and then afterwards I was like, look, this is for the birds, the first
Right.
6 months, I'm not going to sit here till 2 o'clock in the morning putting a schedule. So then that's when I implemented, for us to go electronic, and then for us to go digital and to have that digital platform. So technology is advancing, I mean, in a blink of an eye, right? So as a business owner, be open to change also. So I'm always trying to incorporate different things, like in setting up goals. I want to transport organs. We're transporting patients, we're transporting human beings. We're transporting them to appointments because they're candidates for organ transplant. Why can't I transplant organs too? So
Right.
I'm always trying to incorporate different things, for growth opportunity for SeaBreeze. You know what I mean? I mean, who knows? In 10 years from now, you'll see a couple helicopters out there. I don't know. Only
Right.
God knows what our tomorrows bring. And I try to live it every day to its fullest, because the most important and the most valuable thing we have in life is time, because you
Yeah.
can never get that back. So
Right.
let's make today better, and let's make it tomorrow even better, right?
No, and I think that's so cool, and I like the idea of organ transport. They don't talk back, they're not late. They,
Nope, absolutely
I kind
not.
of like that. That's
And
not
you
a
know
bad
what?
thing.
It's rewarding. I mean,
Yeah,
can you
yeah,
imagine? It's like, oh, I have a 6-year-old in Rochester, Minnesota. Rochester, Minnesota is 5 hours away from me. And it's like, we got an organ can you imagine what,
right,
as a driver? I mean, I've even been driving with a little pep to my, like,
right,
some kind of way, because you are going to impact the quality of their life and it's just going to be so amazing. You have this precious cargo here, you know?
Yeah, it's a very humbling experience. You know what, just happened and the decision that someone made to help someone on the other side, and you're kind of a conduit for that.
Yeah.
That's an impressive thing. That's
Yeah,
great.
it is. So look, so businesses, when people listen to your amazing podcast and all of that, that's learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Incorporate that in your business. Um, you know, whether you're driving, whether you're in the office, in the background, have a podcast up, have something. I mean, YouTube, everything is out there now,
Yeah. Yep.
So I make it a point to do that. I'm driving, and don't get me wrong, I love music. Oh my goodness, I can't sing for the life of me, but let me tell you something. Sometimes I think I'm, Mary J. and Mariah Carey and all these different people, right? Especially if after
Yep.
I have maybe one or two glasses of wine, then I'm really out there singing, right? But at the same time, like, I want to make sure that I am always feeding my brain,
Yeah.
so I'm always learning something new all the time.
No, and I do that as well. I don't have like the patience to read, 400-page book or whatever else, but I will pop in a podcast anytime I work out or I go walking. I'll listen to a podcast to kind of inspire me and
Yeah.
to keep me motivated. And I think
Something
that's so cool.
motivational. You know, I just mentioned Denzel Washington. I love Denzel Washington. He's a wonderful actor. I can't wait. I'm gonna go see that new movie, the Gladiator movie, you know,
Hmm.
and I can't believe, from seeing him in this movie, and I'm like, is that really Denzel? Like, he looks so different. He has aged, and you can
Right.
see it.
Yeah.
And he had an interview the other day, and he said, I got 5 movies left.
Wow.
He said, maybe I got 5 movies left. And when he said that to me, I was like, oh, I was like, you don't realize that, but he's 70 years old,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it takes a year to 2 years to make a movie. So he
Right.
said, maybe I got 5 movies left in me. And when he said that, you might think, Brisa, why are you bringing this up? But we don't realize that. Remember, I told you the most valuable thing we have in life is
It's
time.
time.
So I was having lunch with a girlfriend of mine the other day, and her parents, live in Mexico. Her parents live in Mexico, and they're in their 80s. And she visits them. She's like, well, I'm really busy with the kids and blah, blah, blah. She's like, so every other year, maybe every 3 years, we'll take a trip and we'll go down there. But she'll travel all over the world, right?
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, if you think about that, so what? You got maybe 2 more times to see your parents, if that?
Yeah.
We don't realize those things, but wow. Like, if you put it in perspective like that.
Yep. No, it's eye-opening, and time matters, and it's so it's so critical to take advantage of it. I was actually preparing for a presentation, and I'm talking about the importance of taking advantage of your minutes. And I did a post on that on LinkedIn. And I looked up, and I'm kind of encouraging people to wake up early, or just, even 15 minutes earlier. And time as a business owner is so critical, because you're pulled in so many different directions. But the example that I'm giving is, hey, if you start your day 15 minutes earlier, okay?
Mhm.
Now I know we're talking about other extremes. One extreme is I don't have a lot of time left or whatever else, but 15 minutes earlier every day, you gain 92 hours in a year.
Yeah.
That's over 2 weeks of work, 2 weeks of productivity, or whatever else. And so, little changes make a huge difference, right?
Yeah.
And, you mentioned something, though, about travel and those kinds of things. And you also talked about putting in systems in place that kind of freed you up a little bit. And I know
Yeah.
you have a son, and
Yeah.
that's the apple of your eye. Let's talk a little bit about how you got free and what are the things that you like to do outside of work.
Absolutely.
I love following your travel schedule. I know that.
There's so many beautiful places in the world that God created, and that is my goal right now, that I'm still able to, that I could still walk, and that I could still, do all of those things physically, I want to do that, and empowering my employees, to empower them that, yes, you can do this. So when I'm not here, you can make that decision. You know what I'm saying? You can handle this office. You can implement this schedule. So have a backup for a backup. One thing that has been golden for me is I cross train my employees.
Yeah.
So for example, the dispatcher could not only be a dispatcher, but she might be also authorized to drive. So on an emergency basis, if something happens and I need to make some switches, whatever, okay, you go pick up Susie Q and I'll dispatch. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever that might be. So being able to have more than one person understand the schedule, more than one person be able to go out and drive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make, or I might have a driver that's just like, you know what, I have a horrible headache and the sun hitting me. I don't want a driver driving like that. You know what I mean? Because that puts a lot of things at risk. So, but then also too, I did share with you that I have 38 single parents.
Right.
So being able to, you can't say, well, I don't have the luxury of not working today. I need that money. So, okay, let's see. Is there something else that you can do?
Yeah.
Or I have some of my females. I have horrible cramps. I don't want to do wheelchairs today. Okay, we'll come into the office and we'll rotate. Another person will go out and do your shift, and you can come in here and do computer work. That's awesome to be able to do that.
Right.
So when I want that separation, like I hired you because I know you can do the job. So you don't have to come knocking on my door every 10 minutes to ask me how to do something.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yep.
And that is one thing, being able to empower those employees to do those things also alleviates and gives me that opportunity to then work with my community, to work with my family. You know what I mean? To have my me time. I'm a bath person. I love taking baths. And I could sit there with a good podcast, whatever, for 2 hours and just sit there till it's like, oops, I've been sitting here.
You get out and you're a California raisin.
In this jacuzzi for 2 hours or whatever. But that's my time. Or I like to go get my nails and a pedicure and a nice one, where they put the little steam on and the little hot rocks and all that stuff. And that's time consuming, but it's my time and that brings joy to my heart. I love to eat good and I love to travel. Those things are really important for me. I love the different cultures and yeah, a couple of times a year I will get away and I will do those things. Now this upcoming year I have a graduation. My son graduates from high school, and then he starts his new chapter in his life, and reality's going to set in, right? So I am taking advantage of all of those opportunities, because before you know it, I'm going to blink my eyes and he's going to be gone, so
it's so good, Brisa. And I mean,
you're an amazing dad. You have these amazing young men that you have empowered, that you've instilled all these foundations in, which kudos to you, because those are some not only good looking young men, but
well, thanks.
But yeah, I have to tell you, yeah. But they're healthy and they're thriving.
Yeah, no, it's good. And I was very blessed to be in a situation much like you, where now my eye opening came really with the birth of our third one, our youngest. I remember holding him up on a changing table or whatever, little guy, and he was just doing his thing. And I remember telling my wife, I said, he seems so much more advanced than the other two. And she looked at me and she said, no, the other two had milestones. You just really weren't around to see them.
Yeah.
And that hurt. That really hurt. But it was truthful.
Yeah.
But it hurt.
Yeah.
And so I had to put systems in place and people in place that allowed me to get free in many ways.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to make that investment.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it frees you up to do the things that only you can do.
Yeah.
In that organization, that few people can do. Few people can go out into the community like you can and build those relationships and build that pipeline of customers and referrals and how people feel and feel good about SeaBreeze. And that's the magic, I think, of entrepreneurship, where a lot of people can't handle that freedom, right?
Don't be scared, and don't be scared to go out there and stomp and knock on doors. Don't be scared, because what's the worst that can happen? For them to say,
Right.
no, I'm sorry, I don't have time to talk to you. I
Right.
mean, and how is that going to impact, at the end of the day, your heart's going to continue to breathe, pump, you still got oxygen to breathe. So they're not taking anything from you. So that's one thing, is when I have talked to other business owners where they're like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not good at speaking engagements, and I'm not good at, you know what, baby girl, you got to be in control of your remote. Because let me tell you something, I hit play, pause, rewind, whenever I'm in control of my remote. If anything, I'm gonna make you feel uncomfortable before you make me feel uncomfortable.
Right.
Understand your stage.
No,
That is
and I
really
think that's a
important.
good point. I spent it, and I talked about this, I think, in one of my podcasts. I spent a lot of time kind of nervous, if you will, about being out front in the
Yeah,
public. Because I own such a public business, I was afraid,
yeah,
like, hey, you know what? Maybe some of these people won't do business with me because of the color of my skin or whatever else. And a defining moment came for me when I had a friend of mine. He was from Beirut, Lebanon.
uh-huh,
And I was in his restaurant, and this guy walks in, and he literally looked like Yosemite Sam. He looked like a mountain guy, right? And he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Where's my buddy George?" And they run up, and George hugs this guy, and the guy said, "George, I was thinking about going out and grabbing something to eat, and I thought about you." And I looked at that and I said, now, if this guy from Beirut, Lebanon can, hug this dude from the mountains somewhere, and he's out in front with all of his customers and talking to all of his customers, clearly I should be, and that was just a very defining moment for me.
yeah.
But I think a lot of times people are afraid to put themselves out there, even on the speaking stage and on the speaking circuit. I was very, kind of reserved. And finally, I just was like, you know what? Nah, you just got to get out there. You gotta be you. You got to do you, and just go for it. And I
And one
love
thing,
that about even the younger generation. My kids, and my kids are kind of, they're a little different, but like they don't really do social media a lot. But a lot of the younger generation, they're just like, I'm out here, I'm here, I'm doing it.
yeah.
Uh,
But see, like one thing, like with your presence and what you're doing, is your audience, they want to be there because they
yeah,
want to learn. So they are going to take whatever it is that you are presenting, because that's what they want to do. Where versus if you go to a speaking and you're forced to go there, then it's like, oh, okay, what am I having for dinner? What are we going to do
right.
Friday night? No. So always remember that with your audience, they want to be educated. These are seasoned individuals who want to be there.
Yeah,
So that
yeah,
you're already 10 steps ahead.
yeah. No, I appreciate that. And you're awesome. So as we wrap up, let's talk about what's next for SeaBreeze and what's next for Brisa.
Well, I need $5 million.
Okay.
I need $5 million. I have, the property that I own, the SeaBreeze headquarters, has 3 acres of land, and I need to desperately build my Morton building. So I have been working on that this upcoming year. God willing, it'll be in full effect, and I'll be able to start with all of that. I've already started the foundation, where I'm talking to the different business, the builders, the all architects, all of the powers that may be, and it's a $3 to $5 million project, and that'll
So you
keep
don't
me up
need
at
3 to 5 million. That's if you're doing it in cash. You
that'll
can leverage
that'll that'll
that.
keep me up at night. Let me tell you, because I'm
Yeah.
going to have my own washing station. I'm going to have my own mechanic. I'm going to house my vehicles, and I'm going to have a training center where
Yeah.
I have Delvin, who is going to get certified in all of the trainings to do in-house, and another employee as well. And then community leaders, if they need these trainings and these certifications, then they can come to SeaBreeze to attain those certifications and pay me for that.
Right.
And then after I build this Morton building, it'll generate 118 more jobs to the community.
Wow. Wow. You know what? I would imagine that there is probably some type of
community program that would support you in that initiative, especially with the job creation that you're creating. And that
That's
is
what I'm working
just,
on.
yeah, that's just awesome, and I think that's where the relationships with the community and having a leader like yourself that has a lot of vision and being able to see through that, uh, and see those possibilities. I can definitely see that because you own a great property there, and it's in the middle of the community, and it's a large parcel. And I know we talked about that numerous times about how you could potentially, leverage that and utilize that. And so,
Yeah.
I just think that's really smart, really
Yeah.
smart.
So
Yeah.
that's my next step.
No, that's us. That's great. Well, Brisa, it has just been a pleasure, and
Yeah.
I am so proud of you and Delvin and
Thank
the
you.
entire team. And I loved,
Yeah.
coming over to check you out, and can't wait to get back over there. Maybe in the spring.
I know because you don't do well with the cold. I already know that.
Maybe we can work something out in the spring, and I can, speak over in Rockford and come by and see my great friends at SeaBreeze. But
Yeah,
I'm just
absolutely.
I'm really proud of you
Well,
and
thank you. I
really happy
embrace
for you.
those. Thank
Yeah.
you. I embrace those kind words, and definitely I greatly appreciate that. And I'm proud of you as well.
Yeah.
You have definitely, I have every single time that you've come, I've always dissected that big brain of yours. And believe it or not, I've taken one thing or another. I'm going to tell you one thing. I remember when you said here, how the best way to save $10,000 a year is if you put away $27.60 a day. And I never forgot when you said that to me. Do you remember that? You were sitting in this green couch right here.
Probably
And
for therapy.
I was just like, really? $27.60? Listen, I took that and run. I
Yeah.
have so many different accounts that $27.60 gets deposited to. And then at the end of the year, that is $10,000.
Yeah.
Because the way our brains work, if you have a simple, small number, it doesn't seem like such a big number.
Right.
And $10,000 might not be a big number for some people, but even to some of my employees, like the employees who purchase homes, I had them do that. I had the
Right.
bookkeeper and the CPA put $27.60 a day from their account to a savings account that they couldn't touch. And then at the end of the year, they had $10,000 for their down payment of their house.
Right.
So I learned that. You brought that up.
Well, thank you.
I've learned.
And I know what we were talking about. We were probably talking about my lunch budget, like going out to eat for
So-
lunch every day and how
So
you
I
could
have to
save
tell
that
you,
way.
like, there's just so many things, even with my son, incorporating him in some of the business practices and so on. So yeah, so I've always dissected you, and you don't even realize that. But thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I'm glad, and I know your son is going to be very happy and a wealthy young man one day. So you've hired him in your business. I take that, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
what you're telling me?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good,
But let me
good.
tell you something. Everything is in order. Yeah. So if God takes me home tomorrow, Alonso has steps to take. It's not just going to be
Yeah.
given to him.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
mom
no,
has
for sure.
everything in writing, even her sparklies, where they
Right.
how they go.
Yep, yep. No, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, Brisa, thank you so much. And just make sure, you tell everyone hello and
I will.
they do a great job in the community. And for everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the BYA podcast and find us on YouTube. Like and subscribe us. And then also wherever you listen to podcasts, you'll be able to pick us up there. But Brisa, real quick, how can someone reach out to you? I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn. We also have a website, SeaBreezeNEMT.com. Our office is located here in Rockford, Illinois. They can email us. They can, call us. The office is open only Monday through Friday, but we do have an after hours line as well.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's great. Brisa, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. And
very
I just
welcome.
wish you all nothing but great success, continued success in 2025 as well.
And I receive it with an open heart.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.